أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I want to make a video about the recent UN resolution that was passed, which you're probably aware of, where they passed this resolution which was not for a ceasefire but to increase the humanitarian aid into Gaza. And this was only passed after all language was removed, which was in reference to the cessation of hostilities within Gaza. And even after all of that, the US chose to abstain from the vote. This is how useless the UN is, and any hopes that any of us should have in the UN to make a difference for what's happening in Palestine is very obvious now and very clear that this is not going to work. They have no interest in helping the Muslims, regardless of the amount of pressure that is placed on them, because at the end of the day, it's not within their interests. Now, I just want to explore what the interest of the colonialist powers is and what their attitude is towards human life. And it's shocking, and it's hard to believe that after all that's happened, that this is the position of these colonialist powers. But in fact, this is actually nothing new. So I want to give you a few examples of the state of these people. So Madeleine Albright, former US Secretary of State, in an interview when asked about 500,000 children that were killed by sanctions in Iraq, said that this was a price which was worth paying. At the time of this video, we've had now over 20,000, I think maybe 21,000 people that have been killed in Palestine, been murdered by the Zionist entity. The US, they killed over 500,000 children in Iraq and said that this was a price which was worth paying. In Japan, during the war, before the nuclear bombs were dropped, there's evidence to suggest that the Americans were aware that the Japanese were about to surrender. But they dropped the bombs on them anyway. And the reason for this was so that they can show their dominance on the global stage as a global power. So the people that died during these atrocities of the nuclear weapons was also a price worth paying. And we've seen in recent history what they've done in Iraq and in Afghanistan. Again, they've killed thousands of Muslims, thousands. Do they care? They don't give a damn, right? So we shouldn't have any hope in these people coming to our rescue or to the rescue of the Palestinians. It's not in their interest. It's not in their interest. It's not in their benefit. Why should they care? They don't care, right? But at the same time, funnily enough, we've seen a 20-member coalition come together to protect the ships from the Houthi rebels. So it shows where their interests really lie, where their priorities are. When it affects their profit, then they're willing to form coalitions to come together and use diplomatic and military means to protect their interests, right? So something else that is exposed is just the amount of problems the Houthis have caused them. Just imagine what would happen if all of the Muslim countries were to come together and were to unite their armies, their forces together, and their populations, and men who are willing and ready to die as martyrs. what would happen then?